G'day there, I'm Beanie and welcome to Beanie Draws, where today's video is a response to a question I had in my previous video of an Apatosaurus, video of which will be around here somewhere. Now, Dinosaur Drawer, awesome name by the way, asked if I could do a video on how to do Velociraptor skin, so that is exactly what I'm going to be doing. Now, of course, if we're going to do the skin of a Velociraptor, we're going to have to draw a Velociraptor to do the skin for. So enough chit-chat, let's get to and draw some Velociraptors. Now, before we can draw a Velociraptor skin, we need a Velociraptor. So, what I'm doing here right now is I'm doing a very quick drawing of a Velociraptor. I'm going to be uploading the separate video of the non-time-lapsed version, which goes for about 10 minutes. So, if you want to watch the process of me drawing this Velociraptor on its own, you can. But for the sake of time, I decided for this video I'm just going to do a quick little time-lapse video so you can see me drawing it, and then we can get straight to drawing the Velociraptor skin, which will be coming up very, very shortly. So yeah, this is me drawing Velociraptor very quickly. And now on to drawing the skin textures. So what we're going to do is we're going to see these lines that I put in these little folds of the neck. We're going to do a whole bunch of them along the spine. So do some more lines like that. Put them sort of semicircular. Because to give you an idea, if we did it straight, if we did straight lines, it would look like that. And that would not look very three-dimensional. So we'll erase those out with my trusty pointy eraser. And instead we'll do curved lines to give the indication of a spine. So do a few of those. What we'll do is we'll put in the leg muscle, the scales of the leg, kind of, in my opinion, start around here. So like we're doing around here, we're putting in those lines, those sort of semicircular lines to give it, because the leg is a circular kind of object. So yeah, we'll call it an object. So put in the lines like that, semicircular lines, and they kind of go around here, but around here, we're not going to do the lines all the way down there. We're going to split them apart. So we'll do those lines on the toes, put those lines all the way around. Think of it as a wireframe model, I guess. Think of it as a 3D form, so we're splitting it in two, because that's what the two toes would be like. Then around here we'll put some more lines. Then we put little circular curves around the ends of these lines, and that's kind of like your toe. Well, if you've seen a chicken foot or a duck foot or a seagull foot or a crow foot, you'll see that, or even a budgie foot actually as well, you'll see that they've got little lines. They've got little scales like this on the top of their toes. So that's how we basically draw. Even lizards have that too. So we'll put those curves there. Maybe put some around its sickle claw. And then we'll do the same around here, but much wider. So do those end those scales up around there. What I do is I like to draw some little scales around its ankles as well. And around here, I don't put all that much detail. I'm trying to think of a way to explain this. If I'm doing a lot of detail, I'll put really tiny little scales in its feet, but usually I just put little lines like this. Sometimes cross them over a little bit, but just put in little lines. And those lines kind of give you a cheating indication of scales. So put them along here. Now, along its thigh, Sometimes I put little scales along there, but usually if I'm doing it quickly, what I do is I do little curved lines like I did there, but I put them right up to these scales. I kind of curve the lines up over its thighs. And we don't do the lines uniformed. Like if you can see, I was doing like a bit of a zigzaggy thing. So what you do is you put some of your zigzag lines to go over the top of each other. They just go over the top of each other, scattered like that. I'll do the quick little two scales on this foot, and we'll do that thing again up there to give you an idea of how the leg scales go. Now on this side, on this foot, you can see that sickle toe is hidden by its other toes. On this foot, the sickle toe is on this side, so we are going to have to draw in the toe scales individually. So this is where it gets a little bit challenging, and you have to use a little bit of artistic interpretation. But what I do is I start with little tiny scales around here, little round. I don't even know if you can see that in the video. I could zoom in, but it would be very difficult. Well, let's see if we can zoom in, shall we? Ah man, this. All right, so here we go. Let's just fix up the. There we go. See, I've got little circular scales going around there, and then I build them up. Build those scales up to the point of the big sickle toe nail. And then we put in our little lines around there. Little semicircle scales around the ankle. And actually, this is probably, I should have done this from the beginning. Now they can see a little bit better. Maybe I'll do this straight through the video now. You put in your scales for along the, maybe it's the shin. Would you call this a shin? I don't know the technical terms for these. I can't even say the word. Anatomical. There you go. The anatomical structures. But basically, what we do here is the zigzag that I was talking about. So you go like kind of like a zigzag curved lines. Zigzagged curved lines. Then you bring those zigzag curved lines around here, and then you just kind of add little extra lines. They don't have to be particularly planned. Just draw little willy-nilly lines in there. Put some extra little lines in here. And see how that kind of looks like it scales. It gives you the indication of scales. That is a trick that I kind of just observed after looking at the scale structures of the animatronics of Stan Winston's Jurassic Park dinosaurs. They have that kind of skin method. So I'll just do a few more. In here, actually, in this part, it'd be shrouded in shadow, so we'll do that. We'll shroud it in a bit of shadow. Okay. Next we'll do the forearms, I guess. Get the cable out of the way. Okay, we'll do the forearms now. Very much the same in how we were doing the legs. Do those little tiny little scales along the finger of the Velociraptor, like so. So it's like its finger bone, finger scales. Yeah, I guess you kind of call it the armor plating of the fingers, I guess. I don't know much about creative creational design, intelligent design, or evolutionistic design. Whichever way you prefer to go with all that, but either way, scales along the fingers. I'm just adding in the extra little claws of the fingers. Make them black so they stand out a bit. Now what we'll do is we'll put some lines here for the wrist, and I used to draw these kind of scales along the top of the arms, but I don't really do that anymore. I pretty much do that tricky scale line, zigzag line, but along its arms. Because basically the arm is a cylinder. Imagine, you know, if you cut a cylinder in half, it looks like that, doesn't it? But we're not going to have the circle part. We're going to keep the cylindrical lines to indicate those scales, skin parts. So just put sort of zigzag, curved lines to show that it's a cylindrical shape. Then you kind of put extra little lines over the top. And you really do not have to think too much about these lines. You just put them wherever. The more you plan your lines, the more it probably won't work in your favor. So just kind of don't plan too much. Just kind of put those lines in there, just randomly. Don't put them in too heavy. Just put them in light. And there you'll see that it's, you know, it kind of gives the illusion of skin. We'll do it up here. I really should have done it lighter around there. So what we'll do is just we're curving around our cylinder, which is our forearm, and then put some little, you know, lines around there. The elbow would have some extra little folds because the elbow moves, the skin moves, so it'll stretch and contract on itself. We'll put a muscle line in there. Because, I mean, if you look at your own arm, you'll see that there's little muscle lines in there sometimes, depending on how muscular you are. Put a line in there, and then maybe give a bit of a shade. Give some slight shading in the arm. Okay, so I'll do the same with the other arm. Put some lines along its fingers. Put those scales there. Some wrist lines, and then some lines around the... So you really should just be doing it this lightly around its arms, around its wrists. You really do not have to think too much into these lines. Just as long as they're curved, it'll look like the skin. Now, around here, this is this. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make the. Let's just quickly render. Just do a quick bit of shading over here to make it look more like a cylinder. Don't lighten up. Don't shade around there. Shade around the edges. So that's where the shadow and the light will fall. That's the door. So what we're doing is we're putting in the shading and put in the lines around here, making the hands a bit darker because I'm a stickler for details. Okay, so around here especially is what I'm going to show you with that skin around the rib cage. So basically, you do curved lines like this. They really do not have to be too perfect or planned because it's skin. Skin is imperfect. It just the folds in the skin. Like, let's see if I can give. Okay, here we go. Look, and let's see if we can see that in my hand. Bear with me for a moment as I adjust the settings on my camera. Okay. Get the exposure right. Okay. Whoa, there we go. Okay, see my hand? See all those folds in the skin? You got all these little tiny lines in your skin, because when your skin moves around like so, it stretches, it expands, and you've got all those little lines in your skin. It's the same for any animal, even lizards. It's just their skin is more like scales. So you got all these lines in your skin folds, and it's those little lines. If you can see, like how gridded and like, you know, got a line there, got a line there, got a line there. Sometimes they even look triangular. Like in this intersection, you got a triangular bit of skin. Got a triangular pattern here. Some of them are more squarish, but basically it's these lines that we are pretending to indicate when drawing. Now, just fix up my exposure again. That is what we're doing here. So we're going to put in our little lines. Just doing just random curved lines. And just put some, like, you know, just generic random lines around here. It really doesn't matter, because what we're doing is the indication of that skin. So you can put like triangles and squares, make them bigger so they fit the whole torso. Like I said, you don't have to plan it too much. Just put those lines in there and it will look like skin. Put some lines up there. Generic lines. Now we're going to put some folds in the skin around here, where the leg and the torso meet. And I'm just going to put a bit of shading and rendering down in here where there's a bit of a hole and a gap. Put some lines under here, because that's where you basically just do your lines to the form of the body. Like, see around here, we're doing the lines along the spine like so. Around the shoulder would be more like this. Putting more curved lines. Then that really basically is the secret to drawing Velociraptor skin, really, that I've kind of discovered over the years of drawing them. So we're just going to focus now on just a bit of rendering, putting our lines. It's all about the lines, basically. You can make some of the spine scales stand out a bit more if you want. Maybe put a little line, some lines around there to curve along with the spine. Maybe put some more lines around there. So, I mean, sometimes it gets a little bit mishmashy, but, you know, that's basically how the skin goes, and then you just kind of blend it together a bit. Now, what's the next part we're going to do? Well, we might as well do the skin of the leg. So let's do that, shall we? We've got the muscles of the body. Then around here, we're not going to do it like this. We're going to do it more like that. So we'll do those lines around its inner thigh, I guess. So you put your zigzag lines. They're just line after line after line. Then some other lines to kind of go intersect. So like you've got so if you fold your wrist in on itself, you kind of get those lines. So it's like that kind of pattern and texture. And around here you do the same thing. Do those little lines. Not straight, slightly curved. We don't do any straight lines, they're all curved slightly. And then put some little extra folds in the knee. Get some muscle tone in there. And then what we do is a big section of that kind of tone. Just follow the contour of how the muscles would look. So you've got a bit of a curve, always a curve, as I kept saying. Just line over line over line, make it a bit of a grid. So that's kind of like that theory, but it's just more curved and less flat. And that gives it a bit of more of a muscular vibe. Then add some extra little lines in here sometimes to indicate a bit of a muscular patch. And then around here, do the curve so it goes more like that. And then around here, sometimes the scales are kind of like the scales along the back. So you do like that. Kind of like that, I suppose. Now, the tail is just like pretty much every other element of that we've been doing. You basically do your little lines, just line after line after line. This one indicates the muscles there. Put some folds in the connection of the body. Actually, I'm also putting a connection in there. Then we put some more lines, just lots and lots of folds. I mean, technically speaking, these should be scales. If it was a gecko, if it was a gecko or a crocodile or something, you'd still have these lines, and then you put your scales inside those lines. So we'll put more of these curved lines, zigzagging away. This is how I always draw my skin texture in my dinosaurs. So more curved lines to go along the cylindrical shape of our dinosaur, our Velociraptor, any dinosaur for that matter. Every single dinosaur, I treat the tails the same, just like this. Bear with me for a moment. There we go. So put more lines around there. Once we get to a curve, it gets a little bit trickier. If you're not aware of shape as much, if you're a beginner to drawing, this section can be a little bit of a tricky challenge. So basically what you want to do is you want to follow the curve and contour along the direction of the tail, so kind of like that. You want it to continuously look like it's a tube. There you go, that's a good idea. The tail is basically a tube, and you want it to look like a tube that gets progressively thinner and thinner. Then you do that. And I mean, if it was like any other reptile, you put like tiny little, you'd put your little, like, you put your little scales inside these lines. Kind of like that, but I'm not going to do that, because that's where it takes forever. So make the bottom of the tail a little bit darker, so a bit of rendering and shading. Make that line a bit darker. As we do your shading parts. More lines, just put them in there. I might do a bit of rendering here just to bring out the muscles a bit more. I'll put some I will put some circular scales in there just for the sake of it. And if you wanted to get really insanely detailed, then around here put like tiny little, very faint lines inside these scales. But that's when you get next level detail. And that's where it doesn't take too long, I suppose, but there's multiple layers of detail that you can put into your detail. Like, this is basically the second stage of detail, I guess. And then you put in your third levels of detail, which is rendering your detail. Put in your fourth layer of detail. I'm gonna I'm going to colour in these toes, these toenails. I'm just going to colour in these claws because they looked a little bit lonely unclawed. Unclawed, that's not correct. They looked a little bit weak without the sharp black nail clawed spikiness. I'm really not describing this very well, am I? But visually, you get what I mean. Now let's finish it up around here. I'm still very not happy with the way that head looks, but you know, some people would consider that to be a very good detailed quality head. It's not the level of quality that I usually go for, but I'm just going to work with it anyway. Now, the neck is an incredibly flexible, stretchy tube. So we just like the tail, we're just going to do a lot of those curved lines like so, and then you put some extra curves because like it'll have folds in its neck for the muscled structure. So I'll put some of those lines, little lines in there for the muscle structure. Then put some like the folds in the neck because the neck's always twisting and twirling around. And just like, you know, like, okay, you can see it in my, like, you know, see it in the wrist. There you go. Look at the folds of my skin in the wrist where, like, you know, it stretches out, then it expands back in, and you get those folds and curves in the line of your skin. And, you know, just like a neck, a Velociraptor neck, it does a lot of twisting and twirling around. You get those lines from the continuous motion of that skin. So that is what we're doing with the skin here. Just lots of lines, basically. Around here, there's a bit of a muscle. So we're following the direction, basically we're following the direction of the muscles, not necessarily the neck itself. The muscles make up the neck. And then around here is its throat, so put some lines in the some curved folded skin for the neck and its throat. More lines. So many lines. But that's basically how you get your detail in your skin. Around here, we'll put some like extra little lines around here to indicate scales. Like, see, once you start doing opposite direction lines very lightly, that's when you get, like, you know, see, look right there, you got a little square, you got little squares here. Sometimes they form those triangles. You just put those lines very lightly, counteracting over the top of those other lines, and that is how you get your skin, and that's also how you get your scales. And then you can put like you can refine those shapes if you want to spend extra time on it, and then get extra scale detail. But that is basically how it looks like scales are formed, are just from hard lumps of skin in between folds of skin, I guess. So now what we're going around here, it's kind of like around here and around here. You got those kind of, anywhere there's like a sort of a hard ridge is where I usually put in sort of more firm defined scales. So we'll do that around here. Around the mouth, there are those, basically these sort of finger scales. You put them around the lip, and you'll notice that lots of lizards have these kind of scales that go around their lips. So we do that. Do the same under the lip. I think I did a tutorial on this with the T-Rex when I was doing it, if you haven't already seen it. Now, another tip and trick that I've got for around here is you follow lightly the contour of the jaw, and some of the lines around the edge of the jaw, you make them stronger, and it's just all basically just lines. See, look, here you go. You got your bit of a zigzag crossing over the top of them. Put some lines horizontally, vertically, diagonally. It's like a bunch of lines, and that's how you make your skin. I'm hoping the concept of the different line directions and the skin to make lines that eventually form little scales, I really hope that concept is coming through. And then you refine some of these scales, you refine some of those lines. That's where you get some of your scales, and then you put like some firmer lines around there, around the jaw. Around here is the eye, so we'll put some eye folds for where it would be blinking in its eyelid. Around here is around this part of the head is where I'd put some like actual circular scales. So like so. And around here, do those sort of line scales. But then around the nose, you do your multiple different lines. Sometimes up around here, you draw like some individual scales. It just really depends on your preference, I guess, on how you prefer to draw dinosaurs and velociraptors. I mean, technically speaking, no one knows fully what dinosaur scales look like, so you can draw whatever you want, really. So I do little lines. Sometimes around here I'll do like, lines, circular lines like so, if you can see that. Sometimes I just do like, lines like this, alternating lines, alternating your direction of your lines to mishmash and cross over the top of each other to make it sort of a mesh. And that's just basically how I draw my velociraptors, basically. So we'll do that again around here. Very much like the torso rib, just put your lines like this. Just do them lightly. Don't do them heavy, just do them light. And then you just refine some of the extra details that you want. Some of the circular line curves around there. And then you can just kind of shade in some of the forms of the muscles. Get a bit of a shadow under the snout ridge. Get some more lines going on in there. So yes, that is kind of a way that I go about drawing Velociraptor skin. And that's when I start, putting my little extra details and lines where I think you refine some of the edges and lines, and then you put your shading and such. And then, of course, when you do some of your shading in your rib cage, it gets a bit, it kind of camouflages, shades over the lines that you did for the initial skin, and that's just when you make some of those lines a little bit darker, like so. But yeah, when you pull out, that is so gonna sound dodgy. When I pull the camera out, yeah, let's get the camera a bit better. Right, get the focus happening. Make it a little bit darker. There we go. There we go. Now I'm just going to refine some of my lines just quickly. This video's gone longer than 30 minutes, so, I'm just going to refine my lines a bit, make some of them a bit darker. This is where it goes from, like, this is when it changes what would be a 30-minute drawing into an hour 2 drawing. But you just refine your lines a bit. I really, really hope you guys have learned something from this. Like, I think it was Dinosaur Drawer who asked initially about drawing scales and the skin texture. So I hope you have learned something from this video. I really do. I hope it made sense. I hope you've been able to apply some of these concepts into your own dinosaur drawing. Just remember, when you're doing your dinosaur scales, don't go insane on the heaviness of your lines. Just go very lightly, and just, you know, your scales are a texture, they're a pattern, they're not like the actual form. You just want to treat it like it's a sort of a texture and a pattern. It's just to fill out the shape. No, not the shape. It's just to fill out the, you know, the surface. There you go. It's to fill out the surface of your shapes, and just, you know, then you work with your shading to do the rest of your forms. Like, this arm is covering the torso around here, so it'd be shrouded in darkness. And yeah, I really, really hope you guys have liked this video. I hope you've learned something. I know I've drawn another Velociraptor, so this one is a more traditional Jurassic Park 1 Velociraptor. If you liked this video and you learned something, please like it. If you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe, and I will be doing even more of these videos. If you know someone who could learn something from drawing, if you want someone to learn, not if you want someone to learn, if you think someone wants to learn more about drawing dinosaurs and skin and details, send them this this video, shoot them this video, and hopefully they'll learn something, share it around. But yeah, I really hope that you guys have learnt something from this video, because I've enjoyed sharing my pearls of wisdom. So yeah, I'm not happy with the head after looking at the full image, but hey, not all drawings are going to be perfect, but it's close. It's not too bad. It's just not how it looks like in Jurassic Park from this screenshot that I've got. But basically, yeah. Okay, I'm gonna shut up now. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. Subscribe, rate, like, and all that stuff. Leave some comments. Ask me any more questions if you got them. But I hope this has explained it. And thank you very much for watching. So subscribe, and yes, I will see you in the next video that I do. Thank you for watching, and thank you for watching this whole entire video. If you have, I'm gonna shut up now. Yeah. Cheerio.